have to really say a quick goodbye to him. You know, as much as I wanted to hold him and give him a kiss and tell him how much I love him, it almost broke me.
When Andrew Krakouer was 11, his football-famous dad didn't come home one day, sentenced to jail. 14 years later, Andrew himself didn't come home for his own daughters. He too sentenced to jail. Andrew Krakouer has lived the lows of having a prison door slammed shut on his freedom and also the highs of kicking 3 goals in an AFL Grand Final. Forever regretful of his actions, he has never shirked responsibility for them. And here he tells his incredible story of support, love, family, belonging. Andrew Krakouer joins us on this week's In the Game. And Andrew, for people who've known you a long time, they see you today and that they get the impression and the feeling that you're in a really good place. Are you?
Yeah, Damien, that's right, mate. I suppose when people saw me mostly it was through my footy times at both Collingwood and Richmond. They probably only knew me as a footballer, didn't know me. I didn't really do too much media and didn't speak about too many things outside of footy at that time. But yeah, I'm in a really good place at the moment, mate. Obviously sort of matured a lot since then. Obviously grown up a bit and another 2 young daughters with me, mate. So now I'm in a really good spot at the moment. So back in Melbourne as well, so really enjoying life.
Yeah. You've been through a lot, haven't you? And we'll delve into some of that in the next half an hour or so. But the turning point for you to be able to sit here today and say you are in a good place, do you know what it was? Can you put a finger on what it actually was that allowed you to get to that state?
Not quite. I think the biggest thing is just there's a little bit of instability with sort of going back to Melbourne and Perth with footy. But I think just sort of being happy with where we're at as a family. I think after footy was always the unknown. What's the next step? What are we going to do? But probably I've finished in 2013, so 6 years now being out of the game, being really comfortable with my family, being happy with wherever we are. So I really happiness is just wherever we are. Home is always where the heart is, but as long as I'm with my girls and Barbara, that's where I'm happiest. So I think sort of post footy, obviously footy was a great time, but being able to, it's hard to put a finger on it, mate. But it's just wherever I'm with my family, that's where I'm happiest. Mm.
You spoke so emotionally about your family at a recent St Kevin's College Foundation dinner where you spoke about your life and the situations you found yourself in, and now where you find yourself today. It's clearly very important to you, the relationship you've had with Barbara. Your childhood sweethearts, aren't you?
Yeah, no, we are, mate. You break it down like that, absolutely. Since 16 and we're still together, so I must be doing something right, Damien. But yeah, that night when I spoke about it, I haven't really gone into that depth about speaking what, how the impact that me being incarcerated had on my daughters. Even I've thought about it, but even I remember rehearsing it and speaking, talking to myself about it, and I got quite emotional just with, me in the room. So, when I did speak about it on that night, obviously I was choked up again. So it's every time I have spoken about it because they just mean so much to me. That, it's the reason why I do what I do, the reason why I get up and, I want to succeed and what I want to do well is to be able to try to provide them the best lifestyle and the best pathways I can for them. So, and obviously being a good role model as well to, to my daughters. So to speak about it and choke up is because, they mean so much to me and they're so much a part of my journey.
Yeah. And when you refer to the daughters, one, your eldest was in the room that night, Alira, who's now 19.
Yep.
And there's also sisters who are Takia.
Yeah.
And she's
18. Yeah, and we've got Rain, who's 4 years old, and Harlow's 4 months, so she's the youngest one. So we've got two good babysitters, and the oldest, Alira and Takia. Rain thinks she is. She tries to take the rein, trying to take the rein. No pun intended there. But no, they really enjoy each other's company. So obviously it's a fair time between drinks. Where from the oldest from Takia to Rain, but I really enjoyed it actually having a few bubs around the house again, and another toddler. So and besides the sleepless nights, they haven't been too bad, Damien.
Fair gap between numbers 2 and 3 there.
Yeah, massive.
Big adjustment and. shock to the system when Rain came around, and even more so with Harlow, who's only 4 months now?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, those who know me, I don't mind a kip, mate. So, to get woken up at night and, for bottles and getting fed and things like that, it was a little bit difficult to transition to. But, mate, when you get up and, you see her having a smile on her face and, she's laughing around, it wasn't too hard to sort of have a bit of a cuddle and do what you need to do. But, it's all good fun. And so, but it hasn't been too bad. But, yes, a very long time between 2 and 3.
Yep. You mentioned a couple of ages there of your daughters and being with Barbara since middle teenage years. You were very young, weren't you, when Jim, your famous footballing father, was in jail? And I recall you telling the story. You're 11 and you got home and you were just told he wasn't coming home. Would you mind telling our listeners today a bit of the background to that and your memories and what it meant and impacted on you at the time?
Yeah, I remember going, like I said, in my speech at St. Kevin's, there was a time we always came back to Perth for Christmas, so to spend time with family. We didn't have too many family members over in WA. It was only Uncle Phil, which is Dad's brother, and his children. So whenever we could, which was Christmas, we went back to WA. And unfortunately, this time wasn't as memorable as the other ones. I remember walking into the house, and it was like a bit of a pause when we usually jump out of the car. The kids are just running in the house to grab whatever they can, toys, TV, go to the fridge, whatever it is. So, but it was a real slow approach. I remember Auntie Carey's house, who it was at the time, who was my Uncle Billy. That's my dad's younger brother, partner. Walked into the house, and I remember walking in with Mum also, holding hands, and got told just to hold back a little bit, just not to go in just yet. So I knew something was up a little bit then. And then as we walked in there, the house was just ransacked. So not knowing as a young kid what was going on at the time. And then I remember, like I said, speaking to Mum and asking her what was going on. And after a little bit after we walked through the house and saw what kind of state it was, asked where Dad was, and Mum saying he's not coming home. Didn't know what to think, but then still trying to digest all that and come to terms with Dad's not coming home. Where is he? What's going on? It's pretty difficult for an 11-year-old. That was not so memorable. But pretty tough times in my childhood. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you visit Jim in jail?
Yeah. So whenever we could, we try to get out probably once a week and. As much as we could. So, it's, just have that contact and be able to say, have a chat and have a cuddle was, obviously Dad, loved that, and we sort of loved going and seeing him as well.
Mm. And then you have your own situation when you're in jail too, 2008 period, and you were in the same situation as you once were with your dad, with your children hoping to see you. That would have been, I'd imagine, the toughest moments of your life?
Yeah, absolutely it was. I remember just, looking forward to week. I didn't, really look too much to the future. Just from week to week, the weekends you were able to see the kids, and that's something I look forward to. So, but in saying that, I still didn't want him to come out, but I wanted to see him, so it was like a double-edged sword. So didn't want him to put him through that situation and that experience, but I wanted to see him as well, and I know that they wanted to see me. So she was pretty tough times, Damien, to to have my girls out there, and it was just probably blanketed when they came out and see me. I was it was like a band-aid, and I was happy, but then it all sunk in and I was back to reality again as soon as they sort of walked out the doors and jumped in the car, and I wasn't able to see him for another week.
Mm. You described the situation upon going into jail so vividly on that night in question, Andrew. Could you do so again? The word that I remember you saying more than other words that night was the clunking of the prison door.
Yeah.
Can you just take us back to that moment again?
Yeah, it just seemed like a really long walk. After I got out of the prison van, got to Hakea prison, and got processed, and all that kind of stuff happened. Your clothes, your fingerprint, all that jazz. You get escorted from the security guards, officers, down to your cell. It just seemed like a really long walk. It was really, really quiet. The hall seemed really big, really old lino on the floor. And, it was just, once we got to the door, I didn't sort of really look up at the whole time. My head was just sort of looking down. Then all of a sudden we've stopped. You heard some keys rattle. The doors open up, and and you go. My brother walks in first. I walk in behind him, and before we could take anything in, the door just slammed. It was this massive, huge doors and a big clunk, and it just went clunk behind me, and I turned around, and I remember putting my hand on the door, and it wouldn't move, wouldn't budge. So that was it. That's when sort of reality kicked in. That was it. That was going to be home for the next 16 months. And then I remember jumping on my top bunk and doing a bit of reflecting and thinking about a few things. How could I be here when not long ago I was running around in the MCG. So it was it was quite a tough night, Damien.
Consequences for actions is something you're very big on right now, isn't it? And you've never once shirked the responsibility for actually being in there, have you?
No, that's all. It's unfortunate in life, people make the wrong decisions, and at the time, they may think that it might be the right one, or they may think they have no other option. But in hindsight, I've been able to look back on mine and understand that wholeheartedly it was through no one else's actions but my own why I was in the situation and why I got incarcerated, and there were no other factors but my own doing. Is because for why I was there. So I've never ever shirked the issue to say that I blame someone else or blame a situation. It's me being totally accountable for my actions, and wanting to move on, and from my actions to be able to learn from my mistakes, understand I made a massive mistake. Consequences were very harsh, and that's life. I've had to just pick myself back up, try to dust myself off as best as I could, move on, going forward, trying to learn from my mistakes, and that's what I've been trying to do, Damien.
And Andrew, it needs to be acknowledged as part of the story that there was a background, wasn't there, to the actions that led you to being charged with assault causing grievous bodily harm. There was generational family issues, but again, just in everything you've said publicly and I know privately as well, you've never once used that as an excuse or to validate what happened, have you?
Yeah, no, I've never ever validated. No, yes, there was some history. Yeah, there was a little bit of a few altercations with some other family members and myself and with Justin, but still not the right decision I made. Still the wrong decision I made, 100%. And unfortunately, we can't go back and change. What has happened. All we can do is, going forward, is learn from our mistakes and trying to do best as we can to try to educate and help other people, and more so not make those mistakes again, Damien.
What would you say, Andrew, now to other people who look up to you as an idol and are familiar with your story and your story as you're living it? The low point was the moment we're talking about now. What do you say to other people now who look at you as a hero? What should they be doing in similar situations?
To be a hero and a role model, that's I was still sort of I'm overwhelmed with that term, but but I understand that people do look up to me, and with the situation that I've been able to get through and to get back to where I was, to be able to go to jail, and then all of a sudden I'm, through a lot of hard work, to be able to come back and be playing on the MCG is quite remarkable. So, my message and if I had any advice for people, the wheel does turn. No matter how bad it is, it's not as bad as it is, and when it's good, it's not as good as it is, and it can change in the space of 5 or 10 seconds. It can change very quickly. So, I think people just need to, just keep the faith. Surround yourself with good people and try to keep moving forward and doing the best as you can. I know there's certainly time and situations, where I thought that couldn't happen, and there's people out there probably think the same thing. But it does turn, and I'm living proof that it does.
The visits you were able to have with Barbara and the girls in that time frame, and obviously the two younger ones weren't born at that stage, so we're dealing with Alira and Takia. How hard was it, as you touched on a moment ago, when they were leaving?
Oh, mate, I'd have to really say a quick goodbye to them. As much as I wanted to hold them and give them a kiss and tell them how much I love them, it almost broke me to see them go. And like I said, for me to be able, is the other reasons that this situation is about. We're in this environment as a family is because of my actions. So. Yeah, I get a little bit emotional always talking about that because, it's just you got these beautiful, young, sweet, innocent girls that have had to step up and come into this environment because of their dad, the person that they love and they care about, has made a wrong decision and put them here. So it was really, really hard and I struggled, every time they left the prison or every time I had to get off the phone to them, to not be able to be there. That's probably the biggest struggle that I had, not to be able to be dad, to, when they're upset, not to be able to give them a cuddle, not to be able to support them, not to be able to hold them and say everything will be okay. So that's what really I really struggled with, Damien.
You clearly got a very special relationship with your girls, and I've seen it with Alira. Having that after it all, it must be such a special part of what you're living now.
Oh, absolutely. It is, mate. Damien, that's what I said before. That's the reason why I do what I do. I try, get up out of bed and try to do the best I can to be able to be a good role model to my girls, and to be able to try to help create pathways and good opportunities for them. So, they're the reason why I do everything, and we've got a great relationship and a great bond. So, they're all Daddy's girls, mate.
Yeah. And Andrew, coming out of jail after the 16 months, and we'll touch on the football element to your post-jail life in a moment, but reconnecting with family, with friends, with people who you may have had associations with and may have drifted apart over that period of time. How tough was that, and how important has it been for where you've now got to? Yeah,
it is quite difficult because when everything's going well, you've got a lot of mates. Those phone calls, obviously I couldn't get too many phone calls in prison, Damien, but the phone calls there, the support's there, everyone's around, everyone wants to be around you, everyone just loves your company. Unfortunately, when you go through bad times, they quickly drop off. Friends, family, a lot of people drop off. So I found out that the hard way. There was only a handful of mates that actually came and seen me while I was incarcerated. It was tough at the time, but you got to put yourself in other people's shoes as well. People got their own lives to go about and whatever else. So I didn't really hold. There was nothing sort of held against mates that didn't really come and see me or anything like that. But sort of with the re-socialisation side of it, I had really great support, Damien. The Swan Districts Footy Club had a program where I was able to come out of prison during the day whilst I was still incarcerated, go and spend time and work at Swan Districts, and then go back to prison at the end of the day. So that really helped me with my re-socialisation, with families, even with Barbara and the kids. I had to fit into their schedule. They had a schedule with school, work and whatever it was. So, and then I come out so I had to try to see where I fitted in around them. So it was, when you're the male and you were the breadwinner and, of the house, and they all fitted around you, with you, and then all of a sudden the shoe's on the other foot, and all of a sudden I've got to understand, okay, what's going on here? Where's the girls going here? They've got training here. They've got, schooling here. Barbara, what do I need to do there? So it was pretty tough. It was very tough, So, but like I said, I was really good that I had that structure and support around me to be able to do that, and, to be able to fit in. I'd rather have Barbara's routine and structure, fit in with that and whatever else, than have none. So I was very fortunate and lucky to have that, Damien.
Yeah. And I want you to encourage you here to be quite indulgent about your footy talents here, Andrew, because I know it's not natural for you to talk yourself up. But you mentioned Swan Districts there, and they had given you support, effectively knowing you were going to go into jail, and I know you greatly appreciate the support there. They then gave you the support when you came out, and you reciprocated by having one of the seasons for all time in 2010 with them. It was a season that won you the Sandover medal. You got the best on ground in that year's grand final with a lazy 4 goals and 42 touches. You then got drafted at the end of that year, but that particular year, that particular grand final was quite a special moment when you kicked the winning goal with 10 seconds remaining, wasn't it? Oh,
mate, it was crazy. It's a script you couldn't even read about, that you could fathom about. So, fathom the thought. So, yeah, mate, Swan Districts, like you just touched on, Damien, they, knowing that I was a massive chance to get incarcerated, but still say, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, I was in disbelief with the faith that they had in me. So, and also through my incarceration. So, as you said, all I wanted to do is just play good footy from there. I know that's all they wanted from me, to be able to, to play good footy and do the best I can from, and that's all I wanted to do. So, and I was lucky enough. I had, as you said, I had a pretty good year. I didn't have too many bad games that year. I played some state footy as well, but the one that comes to mind is obviously the grand final. I was lucky enough to win a few individual accolades along the way, the Sandover and being one of them, but more importantly, we play footy because it's a team sport and we want to be involved in team success. So, yeah, no, that day was crazy. I've seen a couple of the highlights, I must say. Even one of the boys today at work over the intercom, they played last couple of seconds. So no, it was good. Yeah. So I was waiting to hear someone's calling out, but all I can hear was Krakouer kicked the last goal. So no, it was quite funny, and yeah, to look back on it now, it's something I still got to pinch myself out about.
And I think someone retrospectively applied the fantasy type of points to the performance, and it was up near 293 points or something. So a game for the ages.
Yeah, no, there was a few points there. I reckon it's the highest one yet. So.
Yeah. I noticed too in the team that a couple of guys who become very prominent in their clubs in relatively recent times were playing as young kids in that game. Caniglio and Walters in your team.
Yep. Oh, Stevie Caniglio is an absolute gun, mate. He, I think he's a really good cricketer as well. So he had the chance to choose whether he wanted to play footy or cricket. But Stevie played an absolute amazing game, mate. As a young 16-year-old coming in, having 17 or 18 touches and kicking 4 goals in a league grand final. Yeah, it was unbelievable. And also Mickey Walters as well. Michael played his role very well, and they from then on they've just had they've bettered their careers. They both got drafted to AFL. I think Michael was at Dockers at the time, but going through some stuff in his early stages. But he's a really good contributor, and he's an elite player for Frios. And we all know how good Stevie's going at the moment.
Yeah, and then from there you then got the second AFL opportunity with Collingwood Footy Club, and you played in that 2011 season all the way through to a grand final. It was a tally of 23 games, 35 goals, and quite, I think very importantly, 3 goals in the grand final itself in a losing team to Geelong. You took Mark of the Year that year as well. It was basically the completion of the footy comeback, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, mate. Almost. I think just short of it, Damien. I think if we would have won the grand final, I think it would have been a perfect ending to it. But still to be able to, I still look at it now. I found my runners-up medal. We don't look too much about, but my grand final jumper at home, going through some stuff and some photos. Just to still look back at that now, like I said about the Swannies grand final, sometimes I still got to pinch myself to actually realise that I was there. That's what I did do. So it's it's been a fair journey, been a remarkable journey. Had some pretty big achievements and accolades along the way. The Mark of the Year was not too bad, but Brian B.T. Taylor always tells me he makes it sound better, so I'll take that on board. But it was good. Obviously, kicking 3 goals in the grand final, I thought up to half time, I was thinking that things were going really well, but unfortunately, footy changes very quickly, and the Catters got the best of us, and we weren't able to get the ball down the forward line too much in Damo.
Yeah, and there was a moment in that year where you had what's been referred to as the prison gesture, the crossing of the wrists after a goal, and there was some controversy attached to it. I know there's a context to it that wasn't necessarily one that was played out publicly at the time. Could you take us through now what it was that you were doing with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I got a bit of stick about that because initially when I did it, there were activist groups coming out and people were saying that I'm glorifying criminality and going to jail, which couldn't be further from the truth. That from going to jail, I'm absolutely embarrassed in my actions that I've been, that I went to jail and that I was in that situation. The only reason that came about is because I spoke to my brother earlier on in the day, and he asked me to give him a little sign for him. So, and that sign, a lot of people don't know if they haven't been in that situation. That sign was the sign of hope, to keep your chin up, to try to do the right thing. There's something, there could be something better for you around the corner. If you do the right thing, because I was there where you are watching that TV. Wearing those shoes, wearing those clothes, I was there, and then now you're watching me run around on the MCG. So that message was just hope, and keep your chin up, keep your head up. You never know what could happen. You never know how things could change if you do the right thing.
Mm. And Andrew, the career at AFL went into 2012. You got injured though, didn't you? You got back for the finals, and again performed in the finals despite really seriously doing your knee. When you look back at your time in footy, are you more proud of just the football side of it on what you achieved in let's go with 2 seasons at Collingwood over the 6 or 7 years you had at Richmond?
Yeah, I'll probably look back on it, and most people probably remember me because it's fresher as well, fresher in their minds. But I think what I was able to do at Collingwood, I felt like I was ready straight away. Once I got picked up for Collingwood, I was ready to go, and I felt like I belonged and I could make an impact straight away, which I was able to do. But yeah, with Richmond, I was probably struggled the first couple of years to understand what was required to be an AFL footballer, and I had a couple of consistent years. But then, obviously with what happened, it quickly changed, and I was sort of out of the system, very, very quickly. So, but very, very happy, Damien, with what I've been able to achieve at both clubs. I played 100 games at Richmond, took my daughter through the banner, and then also making a grand final mark of the year and a few other things, accolades with Collingwood as well.
Is Jimmy proud of you as a footballer?
Yeah, he is, absolutely. I remember one. Mum tried to say something. He said, I was nearly as good as him. I said, Mum, what's wrong with him? Did he bump his head or something? So, no, I said, no, Dad's an absolute legend. But he doesn't like to praise people up too much. But, he's been able to give me a few, some high praises. So, I'm, very, very appreciative, but he's probably one of my harshest critics. So, for him to be very proud, which I know he is, him and Mum and sort of all my family as well, with what I've been able to do, not only on the footy field, but with my family there, I'm very proud of me, which sits really well with me. Yeah,
obviously the context to it, but the excitement that Jim and Phil brought to not just North Melbourne, but the entire VFL as it was back then when they came into it in the 1980s. Do you now have an appreciation for the impact they had, not just as footballers?
Yeah, absolutely. Like where I work now, you get these older blokes coming up saying, your dad and uncle, I loved them, but I hated them. They went for another team, but they just loved to watch them, how they played footy and how they went about it, and talking about them revolutionising the game back in the 80s. So, as a young kid, obviously, I was born in '83, and most of those games I was in a crèche, so I didn't really see too much footy. But I've got a really good appreciation. I've been able to watch a few highlights and understand really how good they were and what they were able to do. Like Dad was, I think, 174 or something like that, 69 kilos. You talk about that, playing against blokes like Dermot Barrett and Dipper, the size of...
And holding his own.
Absolutely, the men they had around there, and to be able to do what he did. And also Uncle Phil, he loved selling a little bit of candy too, as we know, so I might have got that off him. But I've got a really good appreciation with what they were able to do, and the pathway that they've been able to create for players like myself and Indigenous players going forward as well. They played a big role in that.
Yeah. And the now, Andrew, you're working in the city.
Yep.
For...
Oh yes, so I'm labouring at the moment. So after footy, Damien, I got into construction.
Yep.
I suppose I was doing some stuff with the David Wirrapunda Foundation as well, which is around Indigenous employment, role models, running programs within high schools and primary schools. And I think I just wanted a bit of a change up, just to clock in and clock out. So I got involved in the construction industry, FIFO, which is fly in and fly out, in the northwest of Western Australia, the Pilbara. Was over there for a couple of years, and then an opportunity came up to do some labouring and do some work in a multiplex site in the city over in Melbourne. So as I wanted to come back to Melbourne, I jumped at that. So I'm doing that at the moment. It's going well. Good bunch of people to work with, a good site. So yeah, everything's going well at the moment.
And also preparing to potentially go down the corporate speaking path on the back of the St Kevin's Foundation dinner speech yourself and other many inquiries about speaking?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because when I was playing, I had the opportunity to do it, but I just didn't feel like I was ready. And I think with my journey, there's a lot of messages there that I could be able to pass on to other people and pass on my skills and experiences to other people to maybe try to help with whatever they're going through or, whatever they're trying to do. So that's the reason why I'd like to tell my story and be able to give back, and whether it's sharing it with corporates or footy clubs or whatever it may be, just sharing my story and being able to give back, because it's as I've sort of touched on, it's been quite a remarkable one with its ups and downs, smiles and frowns. So if I can, to be able to give back, and some people can think, well, what I was going through, they might be going through the same thing, and maybe give them a little bit of hope to move forward and be able to make a change and do whatever they can, or get up from facing adversity or being resilient or whatever that may be.
And for those who are interested in what you are saying in that space, email is mgray, MGRAY, at buxton.com.au, that being Matty Gray, who's a good friend of yours and a quasi-manager right now, I'd imagine.
He's an absolutely brilliant friend of mine, mate. He's an absolute trooper. So he's one of the reasons why I've been able to come back and do so well, and he's been a great support for me. So yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned some individual words there to describe what you've been through. Faith, hope, love, family, belonging, support. I mean, it's all those words, isn't it, that have allowed you to get to where you're sitting right now?
Yeah, absolutely it is. And that's I think, with everyone, with those kind of words can touch everyone, to the sense of, belonging somewhere, the sense of hope, the sense of change, facing resilience, facing adversity, being resilient, love, family. That's something everyone has in their life. So hopefully, with these messages and what I'm trying to help people out with and give back, it certainly resonate with them.
Andrew, really appreciate your time today, and also for being so open with where you've been and what you're going through and where you want to take it, because I think the messaging I've always had through speaking to you is the one that you've never ever shied away from the situation you found yourself in being your own doing. And I think that's a key takeout for me personally anyway, just when I hear you talk, and I'm really glad, again, and I think I speak for just about everyone, that it's great to see you in the space that you're now in.
Thanks for having me, Damien. I really appreciate it.